Commissioner Kadis, Ahishig, Minister O'Brien, Ministers of State Dooley and Buttimer, Chief Executive of Cork City Council, Valerie O'Sullivan, and Secretary General of the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications, Una Buckley. I want to thank you for joining us here this morning. I'm delighted that we're joined by members of the European Parliament, public representatives, ambassadors, fellow mayors, Director Generals and heads of institutions from across European communities. Too many to mention individually, but as ocean leaders, I want you to know that you are crucial to the success of this conference. Céad míle fáilte go Corcaigh. Welcome to our beautiful city. Cork's maritime heritage, culture and industry have always been core elements of the city's identity and vibrancy. We boast the second largest natural harbour in the world, and Cork is home to Ireland's naval base, our National Maritime College and 2 universities. The Port of Cork is one of Ireland's main commercial ports. So it is an honour for Cork City Council, in partnership with the Government of Ireland, to host European Maritime Day in Cork. We have delegates and representatives from practically every continent, Africa, Asia, North America, as well as Europe. Some countries such as China, Canada, Japan, as well as all members of the European Union and beyond. We have huge numbers from the island of Ireland itself, which reflect our rich expertise and research capacity for the importance of our ocean economy, our common European ocean economy. In recent weeks, I've had the privilege of participating in a number of events that have reminded people of the importance of our seas, our rivers, and our rich maritime past, and that of our people. Each year, the Serving Lord Mayor participates in an ancient tradition of throwing the dart. This is a ceremony that dates back to the 16th century and links to the historic authority the Mayoralty has over the seas. While the tradition no longer has any legal basis, unfortunately, as Lord Mayor, it did give me the opportunity to acknowledge the importance of the harbour to our city. And I'm especially grateful to the role our naval service helps in playing in that event. In April, I had the honour, along with the Taoiseach Micheál Martin, to officially open the Marina Promenade, another step in the regeneration of Cork Docklands. This promenade, which stretches for 1.8 kilometres, will provide a fantastic amenity all alongside the River Lee. When I meet visitors to Cork City Hall, I try to explain the importance of our coat of arms and the motto that lies underneath it. The image of a boat sailing between 2 castles and the Latin inscription, Statio Bene Fina Quiritis, a good harbour, safe for ships. It is a snapshot from a time when Cork City Centre was not the roads we know of now, but a series of waterways. It's both a reminder of our maritime history and a reminder of how Cork looks towards the rest of the world as a trading centre, inviting traffic to it, as well as we travel with goods and people to other parts of the globe. Over the next generation, Cork City will be Ireland's fastest growing urban centre, welcoming a targeted 50% increase in population by 2040 to become a city of international scale. As a city, we are poised for an exciting window of opportunity, and there's no better symbol of health and well-being than how we in the city interact with the river and how I hope our waters will continue to play a role in our future success. Finally, I want to thank our team here in Cork City Council who have worked on delivering European Maritime Day in the city, and also to thank our colleagues in the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications and the European Commission who have partnered us to make sure that this is and will be a great conference. Gur Mágúh, agus buin tanmh as cuid eile den lá.
Gur Mágúh Galéir agus Ardmhéara Chorcaí Comhairle Dan Boyle, Commissioner Costas Kadis, O'Brien Dooley agus Buttimer Hochty Doyle, Buil Parliament in Europe, dúspáire bhfuilm a rá gur únta an scéile go míad Galéir bailithe an seo madan I gcóir an thógáil seo, Cogáir agus séana le gachéine a Ghlach Park in Grúan Léanmh agus fáilte fíle 100 míle fáilte de gachéine atá treis tacht go corcaig ó haar lar. In our own native language, Seamus, which I know instinctively you are familiar with, given your roots, I've just said how wonderful it is that we're all gathered here in Cork with the Commissioner, with our Lord Mayor, for European Maritime Day Conference. I want to say to Seamus Carney that you can't get a more Irish name than Seamus Carney, and someone belonged to him. It was a Padder Carney who wrote the Irish national anthem. So you're getting closer and closer. And having heard you speak for the first couple of minutes, it's clear that someone in your family kissed the famous Blarney Stone. Because if you kiss the Blarney Stone, you will emerge loquacious for the rest of your life and will never stop talking. And Seamus clearly has that potential. But we thank you for doing all of that. Now, if I could also say that Seamus, one quick correction, no one has ever questioned the verity of the fact that we have the oldest yacht club in the world, the Royal Cork. No one has ever questioned that before, and I just want to make that very clear indeed. But in all seriousness, we welcome all of the delegates to this conference. We hope, Seamus said after the conference, I was a former school teacher, I never objected to students sneaking an hour out from class to sample some of the delights of the city. We have a beautiful English market, which you might have seen on the screen. There's some very good fish stalls there, and you can sample some of the best of fish in the region, and indeed enjoy the ambience of a port city, of a city with a very strong maritime culture. We thank the Lord Mayor for his hospitality, the Department of Environment and Climate Communications for your work in organising this hugely important conference. The Minister's from Dublin, but he understands where the priorities lay nationally, and we appreciate his commitment to, as we say here, the real capital. Commissioner Kadis, you are particularly welcome. You play a very valuable role in terms of the maritime policy across the European Union, particularly in terms of fishers and fisheries. We appreciate the very constructive relationship that the Irish Government has with you and our Minister has with you, notwithstanding the enormity of your task with 27 EU member states. Your presence here is really appreciated, and we appreciate the work that you are doing, because our seas and our oceans are inextricably bound up with our economy and with our society. And the future is very much one of that inextricable link and bond between our seas and our economy. And in many ways it was always thus. Historically, this is a historic area, maritime-wise, and in many ways prior to the European Union, prior to the formation of the European Union, prior even to the formation of what we might call the nation state, there has always been that links, if you like, between maritime politics, Europe and Ireland, and indeed Britain, with all sorts of different agendas in different centuries and at different times. During the Napoleonic Wars, the city of Cork, and Douglas in particular, and Kieran McCarthy might correct me, he's our local councillor but historian as well, it was a key manufacturing site for sailcloth for the British Navy as they engaged with Napoleon. In addition to that, on the other side of the coin, Irish rebels and people who wanted independence and so on often sought the assistance of the French maybe or the Spanish in terms of military expeditions to try and liberate the country. Unfortunately, the windy and bad weather got in the way of those military expeditions from time to time. But I was in France recently during the Olympics. Actually, I took an hour or two off to see some fascinating archival material relating to the famous Irish Republic and the father of Irish republicanism in terms of ideology and so on, Wolfe Tone, and his original letters where he's pleading to the French government to help his family as he's about to face his death and execution for participation in rebellion. And so that illustrates the really strong historic links that we have, all, if you like, and the maritime is in the middle of those links, if you like. And so in the modern era, and our Port Authority, the Cork Harbour Commissioners, probably found the first meeting in 1814. I think if the founding members of the port, I think, would be quite amazed now and proud of the growth and development of the Port of Cork in the intervening centuries and decades. And so we want to move forward with our European colleagues with strength and to, if you like, fulfil the essence of the original mission of the founding people of Cork Port and the Cork authorities. Because Ireland's relationship with the sea has helped to define our nation's culture and very rich history. It has sustained us throughout our history, from the gathering of seafood to enabling commercial trade, to allowing and facilitating wonderful cultural exchanges with our European neighbours near and far, and as I've said, the occasional military expedition. And today our maritime environment is a very important and treasured national asset that yields a wide range of commercial and societal benefits. I've mentioned commercial fishing, transport, tourism, recreation, renewable energy and cultural heritage, as well as critically providing a key role now in supporting marine life and biodiversity more generally. And those are aspects of our marine environment that we have to do better on in terms of conservation, in terms of the biodiversity and the richness of that in our seas. And Seamus mentioned earlier about swimming and so on. I had a wonderful swim in the Atlantic last Saturday. No difficulties, not cold at all, Seamus. I'd invite you to participate. But it brings home the point that our beaches, our coastal walks, our oceans, enormous recreational value. The great British poet John Keats, I think, was probably one of the poets who always focused on the meditative or the health-enhancing benefits for mind and body of the sea. And nothing beats a good swim in the sea. But then that means then we have to protect the sea, keep the sea clean, and to facilitate all of that. So hosting European Maritime Day in 2025 gives us the opportunity to reflect on these key themes, to discuss and develop these key themes, and how we can, if you like, develop an agreed consensus in terms of how we live in harmony with the sea, and trying to achieve all the various different agendas that emerge from the sea, local, national, European and so forth. And so we hope the conference will shed light on all of that. Our Naval Service headquarters is nearby in Haulbowline. We have a lot of development going on there, and we have an awful lot more to do given the emerging challenges in the world, from cybersecurity to subsea cables. And subsea cables underpin the modern digital economy, the modern world of traffic, commercial traffic and so forth like that. And that's a very important dimension, and we've had many conferences of that in Ireland in more recent times. And we're working with European colleagues, sharing experience, collaborating essentially in protecting that vital economic infrastructure, and likewise in terms of the energy of the future as well. We have a National Maritime College. Had been involved with that in an earlier era. That's of critical importance in terms of research and so forth. And also we have the world-renowned Research Ireland Centre for Energy, Climate and Marine, which is based at University College Cork, who oversee that. And that area of research is one that I'm particularly interested in and that we want to develop further into the future. The emerging areas for us in marine tourism, the blue bioeconomy, seafood and maritime transport are also important themes that we want to learn from others on and develop even further. The culture of our coastal areas is important in terms of understanding that, engaging properly with our coastal communities, giving our coastal communities in particular a stronger voice in the shaping of policy and the development of policy into the future. Our trading networks are key, and trade is a big topic at the moment in the world for different reasons. But fundamentally, our ports, for example, in Ireland account for 90% of trade movements in and out of the country, and the linking of the ports with our transport network, be it public and road and so on, is absolutely critical. And likewise our tourism industries, again, the connection with the maritime experience in terms of the employment that derives from that. Cruise industry has grown enormously. Cork Harbour is Ireland's top destination, with over 80 cruise liners carrying over 115,000 people to the harbour every year. The big issue for Ireland over the next decade will be offshore wind and the development of offshore renewable energy. We're fortunate, depending on what way you look at it, that we're apparently the second windiest location in the world. Some say Vietnam just beats us in terms of wind power and so on like that. That's a positive nowadays. And what that means is our challenge is how do we turn that into the key energy provider into the future. Thankfully, we have achieved a lot in the last 3 to 4 years, particularly in the planning framework around the maritime experience. So we have passed the National Planning Maritime Act. We have developed 4 years ago the planning framework governing our seas. We've established MARA, the agency now responsible in a comprehensive way for planning our seas and so forth. The national, the designated area maritime plan is now going to be developed, particularly in terms of the offshore renewable, in terms of the mapping of the country in its entirety for the offshore renewable. The key issue is to get to 20 gigawatts by 2040, 5 gigawatts by 2030, and we're working with the industry extremely hard to make this a reality. It is the key issue for us economically, but also in terms of decarbonisation and reducing our dependency on imported fossil fuels. And it will be a very transformative political or policy development for Ireland. And the government is absolutely focused on developing the offshore wind infrastructure. We have already issued a number of auctions. We will get this done. And I think that will change the nature of the Irish economy quite significantly 2030s onwards. And then linking in with Europe in terms of the grid. We have a wonderful grid developing with France and Ireland now. Interesting, no objection. I better be careful in saying that too loud. But no, it went very smoothly. We've good gas connectors with Britain. The European grid development will have to, I think, move at pace and will have to accelerate. And European funding streams will have to reflect, I think, that imperative, both in terms of solar, wind and other forms, nuclear and other forms of energy, that we get that connectivity, which I think will give us security and independence at a European scale into the future. The preservation of the marine environment is a key theme of our government, and it's one we can do better on than we have historically, if I'm honest. But again, we have some of the world's finest marine resources. People enjoy our seas. But essentially, in terms of the ruggedness, the beauty of our coastlines, we've got to preserve all of that. We've got to adapt as well in terms of climate change and the impact climate change will have on our coastal areas. And we have to put a greater focus on adaptation into the future in terms of our climate plans and our funding streams to enable us to adapt and protect our coastlines. But the marine environment itself and our biodiversity, I think, is paramount. We have made good strides on land in Ireland with the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Has done some exceptional additional work of late in bringing on new national parks. We want to achieve that in our seas as well and work with the various stakeholders to expand our marine protected areas, the correct balance of activity in our seas for the benefit of biological diversity, but also for overall health and well-being. And our aim is by 2030, and it will be challenging, is to have 30% of our sea area designated as protected, ensuring that our marine systems stay healthy, resilient and sustainable. And through implementing the European Union's nature restoration law, we will help restore Irish marine areas to good environmental status, ensuring the restoration of habitats and preservation of iconic marine species around our coasts. And we can't overstate the importance of achieving that. In terms of the marine environments more generally, our focus will always be on creating a sustainable future for our fishing communities and those running marine-based businesses. And I think working with our European colleagues and with the Commissioner, we're very conscious of the need to give a sustainable future that gives a longer-term perspective for fishers in particular, and all the businesses that flow from that in our coastal areas. And we will continue to work on that with them. There's been incredible technological breakthroughs as well in terms of the reducing of emissions within ports, around logistics, around transport, and so forth, automation in our port sector, digitalisation, how we work in our ports, how we create a greener work environment within our ports. A lot of progress has been made in that respect, and Ireland embraces that and will be working with our port authorities to fulfil the various objectives and commitments that we have made along with our European colleagues. On the fisheries and the seafood front, some of the best tasting fish in the world you'll find in the Irish seas in terms of its freshness, quality, and so on. And the European Maritime Agriculture and Fisheries Fund does help in terms of that, and the seafood development programme that we have in developing a profitable, sustainable Irish seafood sector. And that creates jobs, maintains the economic and social activities of our sustainable coastal communities. And that programme is an important one in terms of how we use our natural resources to secure an environmentally friendly future for our citizens, whilst enabling our coastal communities to economically flourish. We will continue to listen and to engage with our coastal communities in terms of future maritime plans. Dialogue is extremely important. That's what this Maritime Day conference is all about. This summit has allowed our strategic partners to engage in a lively discussion and sharing of ideas, and to build stronger relationships across the European Union. And since the very first day in 2008, our conference, that has been the standard of this event. And we appreciate all of the ocean leaders here from across Europe for your participation in shaping a resilient, integrated, sustainable marine space which will support and encourage economic innovation for the benefit of all our European citizens. Europe is key to our maritime policy. We realise that in Ireland. We want to work with our colleagues in Europe to enable us to do that. And the sessions today reflect that in terms of fisheries and oceans dialogue. Next month, I will attend the launch of the EU Ocean Pact at the UN Ocean Conference in Nice, alongside President von der Leyen, President Emmanuel Macron, who apparently wants all the Prime Ministers to swim on that occasion. The water will probably be too warm for me, given my experiences in our coastline, but I will participate. These events are very important. I pay tribute to President Macron, because President Macron has made the oceans a particular theme of his during his presidency, and it's something that we have supported as a country on an ongoing basis. So I thank you very much for being here this morning. We look forward to this conference, the dialogue, the ideas, recommendations that will flow from it. Agus Tásulagam in the Irish language, Gomunnig Shiv Tanav agus Tarav as an Chogáil, that you'll get enjoyment and benefit from the conference. Agus Gomerumid Galer Gyo Eganam Saharish, that we'll all be alive and healthy at the next conference in 12 months' time. Gormila Mahagwiv Galer.
Gormila Mahagwiv Seamus Ardvera Taoiseach Ara Dooley Ara Buttimer Gwynúsla Galer Curm Fair Fáilteach Car Corky in you, and is more an ordum a vet an seo in you. Con Lauert ag Shola an Cawdola Tavach Sho an Law Muri na Europa. You're all very welcome here to Cork, and thank the Lord Mayor and the Taoiseach for allowing me as a native of Dublin to be here in the real capital of Cork here today. And it's a real pleasure, I have to say, and a pleasure, Commissioner, in particular, to have you here with us today. And I know that you're all looking forward to this very important event that will shape our future in relation to European maritime policy, and as the Taoiseach has rightly said, how people can feed in their experiences, their ideas into that. And we are uniquely positioned as a country to host this wonderful event, and particularly here in Cork. And the Taoiseach has outlined very clearly the maritime heritage and history here, but also how Cork is advancing, and how the Port of Cork in particular is advancing, and I'll touch on that momentarily. And right the way across, because it is what links us to Europe in the main. 90% of our freight, our trade done through our ports. And the Port of Cork is a real exemplar as to how they've developed in conjunction and in cooperation and with the support, indeed, of the European Union and the European Commission. And though we're a small island nation, we are a large ocean state with some of the richest and most diverse seas all around us. And Ireland will play a pivotal role in shaping maritime policy and indeed advancing maritime innovation, research, as you've seen from the wonderful video that was shown before this, and indeed, really importantly, environmental stewardship. Hosting this flagship event provides us an ideal platform to showcase Ireland's leadership across many sectors, because whilst we are a small country, we have huge and large ambitions in offshore renewable energy, as the Taoiseach has mentioned already, in marine spatial planning, in marine biodiversity protection, very importantly, restoration of our biodiversity as well in our oceans, and indeed coastal community development, which is critically important. And it is important that we continue to collaborate with like-minded European member states, the European Commission, and very importantly, other maritime stakeholders. This event is one we've been looking forward to for quite some time. And I know this is an event that was due to happen earlier in the decade and was postponed due to COVID, so it makes it even more of a special event that everyone's able to be here together in Cork. I do, if you may permit me, I want to thank my own team from the Department of the Environment, Climate, Communications and indeed Energy, and our colleagues indeed from Cork City Council, to Valerie and the team here, and the European Commission indeed for making this event happen. The Government have very strong ambitions for Ireland's maritime future, and our programme for government has a renewed focus, particularly on sustainable development, environmental protection and, yes, economic growth. Amongst these ambitions, we want to support investment in our commercial and passenger port infrastructure through a new national ports policy, which we're working through right now. We want to work with our ports to support investment to facilitate offshore renewables, particularly around the offshore renewable energy development, including constructing, the maintenance and the servicing of the renewable infrastructure with a regionally balanced approach. And there are massive opportunities for this country in that regard. The Government sees the transformative potential of Ireland's offshore renewable sector, and we are taking actions to unlock this key potential. Earlier this month, I was pleased to announce that we had commenced our new accelerated National Designated Marine Area Plan, or a national DMAP, an accelerated DMAP mapping our coastal areas for offshore renewable energy. And this European Maritime Day allows us to spotlight innovative solutions such as the national DMAP, promote our coastal communities and advance our shared European goals for a healthy, for a secure and for a climate-resilient maritime space. This supports our decarbonisation ambitions, as the Taoiseach has mentioned, and our offshore renewable targets of 20 gigawatts by 2040. So having this single national DMAP will accelerate that process of site designation for offshore renewables, and that will provide us greater certainty for our marine stakeholders and, very importantly, for the renewable sector. With a maritime area that's 7 times the size of our land area, this represents a crucial step in harnessing one of Ireland's greatest natural resources, which is our wind, and in achieving our challenging climate targets. There are some very encouraging numbers in our green transition. So it's estimated last year in 2024 that 40% of our electricity was generated through renewables. We've shown how it can be done onshore, and we've done it very successfully, and we want to do more onshore. But the realisation of the potential, not just for Ireland but for Europe, and as the Taoiseach has alluded to already, the Celtic interconnector that will be our first electrical interconnector to continental Europe as well, will put Ireland in a space that we can be sharing energy, we can be a net exporter of energy indeed. And that renewable resource that we have is one that we are particularly focused on to secure a green, clean, sustainable energy resource and generation for our people. And that is something that we are on the cusp of doing. So the next 5 years of this government are particularly focused on delivery and on realising that potential across our renewables. As I've mentioned, we've already been a success on the onshore side, and we reached a very significant milestone where over 5 gigawatts of installed wind capacity for onshore. And it's my ambition that we achieve even more on that on offshore. As part of the previous government, that we put the legislative platform and infrastructure in place where we undertook the most comprehensive review and overhaul of marine legislation and governance in Ireland. And as Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage in the previous government, I launched the National Marine Planning Framework back in 2021, and then the Marine Area Planning Act was passed by Parliament, by the Oireachtas, in 2021. And that was really a groundbreaking piece of legislation, and that's now fully in operation. And with that, we established then MARA, the Maritime Area Regulatory Authority, in 2023, one single consenting body for maritime applications. And it's an independent body, and it's responsible for the sustainable management of our maritime area, and it will be a key enabler in respect of Ireland's ambitions for the ORE sector. So creating that world-class planning and regulatory environment will send the right signals to industry, to investors, and very importantly to our colleagues in Europe as well, that we have the regulatory framework in place and now we're acting upon that. So Ireland's ambition for its maritime area will continue to align with key EU partners, such as inclusivity from the regional to the international, seeking synergies with our partners, with other sea basin initiatives, and supporting sustainable development through effective marine spatial planning. On the theme of marine governance, I'm very pleased to announce today that public consultation on Ireland's very first statutory marine planning policy statement will commence on the 9th of next month, the 9th of June, for 4 weeks. This statement is a key piece of policy architecture that sits on top of the hierarchy of the state's marine plans. And that will guide policy making, plus plan making, and very importantly then, decision making. So the statement will cover 3 particular things. It will set out the strategic principles of marine planning policy that the government expects relevant planning bodies to observe and to adhere to. It will outline Ireland's key marine planning priorities for the management of activities in our maritime space during the lifetime of it. And it will outline how marine policy will be monitored and will be reviewed. So returning to the event that we're here today, the European Maritime Day in Cork, one of the reasons for choosing this location was because of its importance as the hub of Irish maritime activity. Our Naval Service headquarters, as the Taoiseach has mentioned, is located nearby in Hallbowland. We have the world-class SFI Research Centre for Energy, Climate and Marine, or MARE, is based in University College Cork, and that centre operates over and assists over 220 researchers focusing on defined global challenges such as that energy transition, which I spoke to, climate action and the blue economy. Our National Maritime College is located in nearby Ringaskiddy and also is the home of the Port of Cork. So as Minister with responsibility for transport also, I was delighted with the recent news from the Port of Cork, having announced their exciting expansion plans to help to drive growth in the offshore renewables sector. And I really want to acknowledge, if I could, Commissioner, that these plans were made possible through the valuable assistance from the EU's Connecting Europe Facility Fund. So our ports are critical infrastructure, as I and the Taoiseach have already mentioned. We have ambitious expansion plans here, not just in Cork, but in our ports right the way around the country. And we are on the cusp of that renewable energy revolution offshore. And my colleague, Minister Dooley, as well, will speak further to what we want to do to ensure that we further protect and enhance our maritime area, that we utilise its resources in a sustainable, in a respectful way that can help to reverse the degradation of biodiversity in our seas. And that has been a very important policy of the last government in this, the expansion of the marine protected areas. So we can continue to expand our marine protected areas whilst we harness and realise the resources of offshore renewables. So thank you again for the really kind invitation, and thank you, Lord Mayor, for hosting us here today. To Commissioner, to delegates, to all of you, I wish you a very, very successful conference here today. And I look forward to seeing and learning of the outputs from this. Very much looking forward to working with colleagues right the way across Europe on this. And I thank you so much for your kind welcome and attention here this morning, and wish you all the very best for the remainder of the day.
Well, first of all, I must recognise the Lord Mayor, Dan Boyle, a friend of mine from his time in National Parliament, and of course the Taoiseach, who's our leader and boss, and one which we are pleased to be sharing the podium with him today. To Commissioner Kadis, thank you for your friendship that you have shown me in my recent role and for hosting me recently in Brussels. I also want to recognise the presence of a number of MEPs and distinguished guests. And of course it's important to recognise the Director General of DG Mara, good friend, Director General Vicheva. You're very welcome and thank you for being here. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be in Cork today with representatives from the two departments that have been identified, who I have been working closely with in recent weeks and months in the run-in to this really important event. And it's, I think, fitting and appropriate that the Taoiseach would be here because, having worked with the Taoiseach for the past 23 years in Parliament, I know of his great interest, not just in climate and climate change, but he was one of the first, certainly from our side of the House, to talk about biodiversity loss, not just at land but also at sea. And he has recognised for quite some time the importance and the connectedness of our oceans and our seas to our environment generally, and the impact that that's having on climate change. So it's fitting that the work of the City Council and others bringing it here in his honour, I think that's appropriate. So look, to thank all of you for your presence. You're welcome. I'm from County Clare up the road, so I don't have that ire or itch that exists between Dublin and Cork. We just get on with it. We haven't been doing too well on the hurling, so I won't raise that. The Taoiseach, of course, and I were at a recent Cork and Clare game where Cork did really well and beat us off the field for a while, and then we came back and we levelled it, and they had felt robbed, thought they were running to the All-Ireland, but I think Limerick had something to say about that in recent days, but we'll park that for the time being. Look, the diverse lineup of events, workshops and discussions over the next couple of days will illustrate, I think, how vital our maritime resource is to us all, and indeed how much we depend on it. And I think that is becoming more evident as time goes on. The dependence across many sectors inevitably leads to challenges. It is therefore imperative that we deliver a sustainable and thriving ocean economy, and the previous speakers have talked about that. We address these challenges, I believe, through dialogue and cooperation. And I was really pleased to see that those are central themes of what you're discussing here today. We in Ireland, really, we've a really strong track record of advocating for sustainable ocean management, and that's, as I said, led by the Taoiseach. And just over 3 weeks ago, I was pleased to announce at the 10th annual Our Ocean Conference in Busan in Korea a pledge of 23.86 million to support action that promotes a healthy, sustainable marine environment. Now, I couldn't do that on my own account. I could only do it with the support of the government. And it's cross-departmental. It's not just coming from either of the two departments in which I have a presence. So that pledge provides for a diverse range of activities, including support to national and European programmes, Commissioner, which you'll be familiar with, and that supports marine research to inform future species and biodiversity assessments, initiatives to address climate impacts in coastal areas, and support for projects that will enable the advancement of digital ocean technologies. And for those of you who may not be entirely familiar with the Marine Institute based in Galway, we have a wonderful team of scientists and experts who are really at the cutting edge of the science of managing our oceans in a sustainable and a safe manner, and they provide wonderful support to the Department of Agriculture, Food and Forestry on the understanding around our fish stocks and addressing those matters. So I'm pleased to see that a number of members of the board are here, and also Rick Peoples, the Chief Executive, who's doing a hell of a job, and we thank him for that. Your participation here today at EMD 2025 in such great numbers reaffirms our shared commitment to sustainable ocean governance, marine biodiversity protection and international cooperation, which really is at the core of what we're trying to do. Gatherings like this affords us the opportunity to continue that all-important cooperation and dialogue of driving ocean sustainability. So in my role, which can be long-winded if it's spread like that across a number of departments, in the Department of Environment, Climate and Communications have responsibility for planning and the DMAP process and general marine planning under the 2021 Act, which Minister O'Brien has talked about, and in the Fisheries Department and the Department of Agriculture, Food and Marine on Fisheries. So I'm very aware, when you talk to all sides of that department, of the importance of better governance, meaningful stakeholder engagement, because that's what it's about, and an emphasis on cooperation in our shared space. So that requires more mutual understanding and more efficient delivery across our broad goals, across our maritime space, which the previous speakers have talked about, when we start recognising the importance of the offshore renewables sector. And to me, it's all about coexistence. And I think it's reflective of the emerging importance of working together to benefit our shared ocean space. And when the Taoiseach appointed me to this position, he was anxious that whilst the two elements, both in fisheries and in marine planning, were across two departments, to try and bring a coherence to it, so that we didn't have these conflict points that can sometimes exist between those two important pillars, and that we'd find a way to move away from the silos that might, under normal circumstances, exist, and try to bring a coherence. And I have to say that I'm getting tremendous support in both departments and a desire to work together around that shared future. And also in that context, I'm also delighted to shortly be taking responsibility for the marine environment functions, which currently exist in the Department of Housing, and they're coming across to the Department of Environment, where we'll be working with the team there. I've already met the team. I know there are some members here today. Incidentally, the base is here in Cork, so it's fitting that they're with us. And I'm looking forward to reaching those exacting targets that you talk about, Taoiseach. We have a commitment to reach at 30% protected areas in our vast ocean space by 2030. It will be challenging, but we can get there. We're at about 10% already, so I'm confident with the support and the kind of experience and expertise that we have on board that we will achieve that. So, as well as hosting European Maritime Day 2025, also sees Ireland hold the presidency of the EU Atlantic Strategy. And through this initiative, we're committed to pushing forward an ambitious and inclusive agenda which can strengthen cooperation among Atlantic member states. And I certainly believe, having talked to the lads, that we can deliver tangible benefits for our coastal communities, the blue economy and our ecosystems. Ireland is also an active member of the Greater North Sea Basin Initiative, and I'm pleased to see that the regional and sea basin cooperation is prominent on the conference agenda here for the next 2 days. Really important from our perspective, and at government level, we'll be holding the presidency of the EU Council in the second half of 2026, and that will, through us, continue to focus on key marine and maritime priorities. And the Taoiseach has issued a very clear directive to all the ministers within government to start planning now. It's not about doing it a month or two in advance of taking the reins, if you want, but to work with our European colleagues and partners at this stage. After this opening session, I look forward to taking part in the first of our plenary sessions, Fisheries and Ocean Dialogue Policy session, where I anticipate a good and stimulating and robust exchange of ideas and perspectives. And I've no doubt over the next couple of days there will be healthy, decisive discussions, debates and developments, and importantly, opportunities as we all endeavour to make a difference, because that's why we do what we do. And finally, I just want to thank again all of you who have travelled from near and far, some friends who I recognise from across the European states that we interact with, and others that wider afield. You really are most welcome, and we thank you for being with us for this really important event. And I hope it demonstrates to you our commitment, our shared commitment, and our interest in ensuring that our oceans, which we share, continues to play such an important part of the ecosystem of our environment, and really is something which we must treasure, but most importantly protect. Thank you very much.
I will try to say it. Diardiv golera acorcha. So, Taoiseach, Michael Martin, Lord Mayor Boyle, Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished guests, dear friends, it is a great pleasure and honour for me to be with you here in the beautiful city of Cork for my very first European Maritime Day. I would first like to thank the Irish organisers in the city and the County of Cork for hosting this event, for all their enthusiasm, their excellent organisation and their warm hospitality. Cork is a city shaped by the sea, as we noticed from the previous interventions, with a rich maritime heritage. Proud of its maritime roots and looking boldly to the future. Here, on this edge of the Atlantic, we are reminded on how deeply the ocean touches every part of life in Ireland, from its communities and economy to its cultural identity and imagination. From fishing boats in Howth to the marine farms in Bantry Bay, from coastal scientists in Galway to students working the quays of this very city, Ireland's connection to the sea is alive and thriving. And it's here, among these coastal voices and tales, that we are holding this European Maritime Day. We meet not only to celebrate the ocean, but also to tackle the pressing challenges it faces. The ocean is warming, it is rising, it is acidifying. Pollution from plastics, chemical and noise is altering marine ecosystems. The pressures are growing and the need for actions is immediate. At the same time, the ocean presents immense potential for Europe's long-term competitiveness and resilience, particularly as the EU Blue Economy directly supports nearly 5 million jobs and annually generates over €250 billion in gross value added to the EU economy. In response to these challenges and opportunities, the European Ocean Pact signifies a major step forward. It consolidates decades of EU policy work into a cohesive and unified vision for effective ocean governance. It recognises that the ocean is not just an environmental concern, it is central to Europe's prosperity, innovation and security. The Pact will set ambitious goals and priorities, and specifically protecting and restoring the ocean health. And this is a prerequisite for the next two priorities: boosting sustainable competitiveness of the blue economy and supporting coastal island communities and outermost regions. Another priority is advancing ocean research, knowledge, skills and innovation, enhancing maritime security and defence, taking into consideration the recent geopolitical developments and the importance of the infrastructure that the ocean hosts. And finally, strengthening EU ocean diplomacy and international rules-based governance. Ladies and gentlemen, Ireland, with its rich tradition of seafaring, fisheries and marine innovation, exemplifies what can be achieved when national pride aligns with European solidarity. And we see this reality here in Cork. This year's European Maritime Day programme is rich in ideas, energy and inspiration. Later this morning, we will launch the Blue Economy Report 2025, highlighting the sector's €250 billion in contribution to EU economy and its 5 million jobs. We will also hold the Fisheries and Ocean Dialogue to discuss the implementation needs and to foster collaboration between fishers, scientists, the industry and the citizens. We will also celebrate the 20 years of achievements by the European Fisheries Control Agency, EFCA. In addition, we will hear from coastal mayors, from Den Helder to Brest, who are shaping the future of our ocean cities. In our workshops and dialogues, we will explore synergies in the sea basins, spatial planning, blue energy, food security, ocean observation, and maritime security. And we will listen to the voices of youth, women in blue economy, coastal champions, and marine innovators. The next 3 days are an opportunity to do more than only talk about the future. It is also time to shape it. So, as we look towards the horizon, let's remember that the ocean does not divide us. It connects us and brings us together. The same tide that touches Cork also reaches Lisbon, Marseille, Limassol, and beyond. What we do here matters everywhere. So let this European Maritime Day be a milestone. Let it inspire action, trust, and unity. Let's move forward together. Thank you for your attention.